With 2028 approaching and Trump's approval crashing, the Republican Party is finally having to contend with what actually comes after Trump is gone. For a while, the conventional wisdom was just that the next figurehead is going to be Trump's vice president, J.D. Vance. But as even Trump has indicated, that's actually not really a done deal. And recently, the name you've been seeing more and more pop up in these conversations is Marco Rubio. Now, there's a lot that's funny about that, but before I get to it, I want to play this video that Rubio released on Twitter a few days ago, which for all intents and purposes is basically just like a campaign ad, because I think it does a good job of demonstrating that Rubio is actually not as strong of a candidate as he seems to be on the surface. I didn't even realize this is his pinned post now, so clearly this is something you're trying to lead with.
I got to ask you, what is your hope for America at a time such as this?
My hope for America? And my hope for America is what it's always been. I think it's the hope I hope we all share. We want it to continue to be the place where anyone from anywhere can achieve anything, where you're not limited by the circumstances of your birth, by the color of your skin, by your ethnicity, but frankly, it's a place where you are able to overcome challenges and achieve your full potential. I think that should be the goal of every country in the world, but I think in the U.S., we're not perfect. Our history is not one of perfection, but it's still better than anybody else's history. And ours is a story of perpetual improvement. Each generation has left the next generation of Americans freer, more prosperous, safer, and that is our goal as well. And as we come upon this 250-year anniversary, I think we have a lot to learn and be proud of in our history. It is one of perpetual and continuous improvement, where each generation has done its part to bring us closer to fulfilling the vision that the founders of this country had upon its founding.
I feel like I just got in a time machine and went back to 2014. This seems more like a video you'd get from someone like a Paul Ryan. It's very reminiscent of the pre-Trump Republican Party. And Republicans just don't really talk like this anymore. This is just not the language or the aesthetic of the MAGA movement. And you can see this in the replies from the MAGA accounts. Americans aren't anyone from anywhere. This is not an economic zone for foreigners to make their fortune. Americans are a particular people in a particular place. Fuck this diverse nonsense. Americans are white. And then there are some people that love this, and I think this actually gets to the crux of what's going on here. This guy is like probably the biggest figurehead of what Republicans used to be before Trump. So a lot of people in the party that are high ranking, that have been there for a while, whether they're people in the party apparatus or like elected Republicans, they're probably desperate to get someone like a Rubio back in power. The Trump fatigue is real. They know he hurts them down ballot. Most of them are just quietly going along because if they break with Trump too publicly, they just get flooded with death threats. And Trump just likes Rubio because, like, as he likes to say, this guy looks like he's out of central casting. He has the look. So you'd think that maybe Rubio can thread this very fine needle of pleasing the establishment Republicans who have been dragged along into supporting Trump's authoritarianism because of their lack of courage. And at the same time, he's enough of a Trump loyalist now, and he's cozied up enough to Trump that the MAGA people might be somewhat warm to him, at least on the elite level. But as we just saw, the actual MAGA supporters, the people that actually fuel that movement, they don't like this. At the same time, it's not like this would make him super palatable to independents or like more left-leaning people, because at the end of the day, this guy is just as spineless as all the other Republicans. It's just that he's better looking and more well-spoken while still being spineless. Like, let's not forget how this guy was talking during the 2016 primary.
I can just tell you that a con artist is about to take over the Republican Party and the conservative movement, and we have to put a stop to it. And part of it is, look at the report you guys just did. Donald Trump last night had no answers on the issue of health care, and if you listen to that report that just led into this, the media is pumping him up as some sort of unstoppable force. Donald Trump has portrayed himself now consistently as fighting for the working people, and he has a record of sticking it to working people for 35 years.
He was cooking back in 2016. I mean, these criticisms all aged like fine wine. And spoiler alert, it's been like, what, 10 years now, and we're still waiting on that healthcare plan? He continues to stick it to working people. And as Rubio says time and time again in this video, as I'll go on to show you, Trump ultimately is a con man. This guy knew that. And I find it hard to believe that he doesn't know it now, when if anything, these criticisms have aged even better.
So we're going to put a stop to it now. There is no way we are going to allow a con artist to take over the conservative movement, and Donald Trump is a con artist.
Hate to break it to you, buddy, but not only did you allow him to take over, you are now his lapdog, competing for his endorsement with James Daniel Vance. I don't know if that's what JD stands for.
So what do you think a Trump government would look like, Senator?
It would be chaos.
True.
No one knows, but it would look probably like the positions he's held for all these years. On many of these issues. He is wholly unprepared to be president of the United States. He refuses to answer questions on any specific public policy. He has no plan for health care, for example. They asked him about the debt. He claimed he's going to cut the debt by cutting fraud and abuse, which everyone acknowledges. And he didn't get any follow-up or any press on that, and nobody pressed him on that afterwards.
It's funny how much these criticisms apply even more strongly to Trump's second administration than his first one, because the first time he was kind of constrained by typical Republican forces, but now he's picked all the personnel. There is no way to separate how the government is operating from Donald Trump. He is getting what he wants. He's put all the loyalists in, he's purged the civil service, and anyone who was paying attention, even Republicans like Marco Rubio back in 2016, knew that if Trump is given power, this is how he would use it. I mean, the amount of ads you could cook up of this guy just debating himself and contradicting himself on Trump, I feel like that'd be a brutal look in a general election, especially because I think it's safe to assume that in 2028, it's not exactly going to be politically popular to associate with Trump. Go back to 2008, and I don't think Republicans were clamoring to be seen next to George Bush. And the way things are trending, Trump's going to be in a similar, if not a worse position if he's still around at that point.
You all have friends. You all have friends that are thinking about voting for Donald Trump. Friends, do not let friends vote for con artists.
Do friends let friends serve in the administration of con artists and now constantly glaze con artists? Interesting. Very interesting. CNN did a panel on this recently as well, and I don't want to play it right now because I don't know how strict they are with copyright, but I am seeing this like mainstream push that like, oh, Rubio's like one of the good Republicans and maybe he can bring us back to sanity. And I would just like to remind people, again, just because he speaks a little bit differently and has an IQ over 100, which tends to be rare for these people, doesn't mean that he has some kind of moral courage. This guy saw Trump attempt a coup and then still joined his administration and now constantly glazes him and contradicts all the same things he once used to say. The betting markets seem to be taking a liking to all of this though, because Rubio now is at 31% on Kalshi, JD Vance is at 35%. And from the outside looking in, I will say this is pretty funny, that the vice president is being outshined so much by the Secretary of State, who if anything doesn't even seem to be very hands-on. Like when they're going to do these negotiations, I mean, JD Vance went to the one in Islamabad, and then it's mostly like Witkoff and Kushner who are actually negotiating these deals. Rubio, if anything, just seems more like a figurehead, and when he does talk about policy, it is pretty much establishment, typical Republican policy from the pre-Trump era. So like a lot of the support for this guy does just seem to be like vibes and aesthetics, which on the one hand, you can argue that's what won Trump the nomination and the election. Like he's not exactly a policy guy, he's more so just a character. But the character Rubio plays is like a Mitt Romney style Republican. And this whole colorblind, land of opportunity and free market stuff, this is just not what the right wing in this country wants anymore. And even the people that are hate watching this video, they'll probably agree with me on that. I don't have a horse in this race though, so I'm very much looking forward to the next few years as these people tear each other apart, because ultimately both of these people are going to face serious hurdles in trying to take that mantle from Trump. The coalition Trump was able to put together in 2024 has already broken apart, and these people would have an even harder time trying to stop the bleeding, let alone reconstruct that coalition in an election. And I wouldn't count out someone like Tucker Carlson as a dark horse here, although I do still think that his popularity is also a little bit overstated. If he does win the Republican nomination, all of those people that I just showed you in that Twitter reply section, to the extent that they're real people and not manufactured at bot farms, they're not going to be showing up for a Rubio or a Vance in a general election. Now, one of these people could still win the nomination because everyone and their uncle is going to be running in the Republican primary. So maybe you could win it with like 30% of the vote. But rest assured, I think we are watching in real time the disintegration of the Republican Party.
Are you a radical left lunatic? Do you like debates and analysis? Are you sick and tired of the same old talking points? Then subscribe to Adam Kahn, join the Discord, and check out the link tree for all his other platforms.
At that point, you can call it a democracy, but effectively it's authoritarianism. So it's like the Viktor Orban model, which I saw your interview with him and you randomly started praising Viktor Orban. I don't want to see that kind of leadership in the United States.
Where's the government getting money from? This is
tax revenue. I mean,
right, exactly. So from us, just to be clear, from us. And this is the thing that gets me about all of these debates.
Yeah.
The magic solution that everybody has, that we just need to tax the government more.
Every other developed country has paid maternity leave.
But it's not magic as in like the money is coming. The money is coming from you. It's coming from us. So you're sitting here
that's
saying,
how taxes work.
Yes.
Like first you deny he ever said it, then when I prove he said it, you say, oh, he was joking. Then when I show that actually it wasn't a joke, you're gonna say, oh, what about the Democrats that did this other thing? That's how it always goes.
Trump has been politically persecuted for years. Republicans have been.
He just said he's gonna say, what about the Democrats now? See?
But if they break a law in our country, then it becomes an issue.
You're so how would you determine whether or not someone has broken the law? It's almost like we need a process for that. That would be due to someone if they're accused of this. We could call it due process. What do you think?